Let's see what we have in the story basket. This book is called Too Many Pumpkins, and it's written by Linda White, and it's illustrated by Megan Lloyd. Too many pumpkins. Wow, that is a lot of pumpkins. Every year at springtime, Rebecca Estelle planted just enough seeds in her garden to grow vegetables for the long winter. She planted carrots and beans, tomatoes and peas, corn and rutabagas. She grew a little bit of everything, except pumpkins. Rebecca Estelle hated pumpkins. When she was a little girl, money had been scarce, and for an entire month, all there had been to eat were pumpkins. Baked pumpkins, steamed pumpkins, boiled pumpkins, stewed pumpkins, mashed pumpkins, rotten pumpkins, breakfast pumpkins, lunch pumpkins, dinner pumpkins, enough pumpkins. When things finally improved and there was more money to buy food, Rebecca Estelle decided she would never eat pumpkins again, or even look at one. Not ever. And she didn't until one autumn day, long after Rebecca Estelle's hair had turned snowy white, she was raking the leaves that fall each year from her black walnut tree. And her cat, Esmeralda, was scattering them just as quickly. All of a sudden, the pumpkin truck passed by. Oh, she heard it coming, and she knew what it was. It rumbled by at harvest time every year. She turned her back and concentrated on picking up the last fallen leaf. And she managed to ignore that truck until splat! An enormous pumpkin tumbled off that truck and smashed into slimy smithereens all over the edge of her yard. "Come back! Here, come back! Get this pumpkin!" she yelled. But the driver just sped away. "Well, I won't touch it," Rebecca Estelle insisted, getting her shovel from the barn. "And I won't look at it," she added as she shoveled dirt on top of the pumpkin pieces. "I won't think about that pumpkin ever again," she declared. And she didn't. Until spring. When Rebecca Estelle was admiring the new sprouts in her garden, she noticed Esmeralda playing in some big green leaves growing at the edge of the yard. "How curious," she said, going over to inspect them. "I didn't plant anything there." Then Rebecca Estelle remembered the pumpkin truck and the slimy pumpkin smithereens. "Pumpkins!" she cried in disgust. "Come out of there, Esmeralda. I will not water those plants. I will not tend to them. I will ignore them, and they will die." She picked up Esmeralda and stomped inside. But a week later, when Rebecca Estelle peered out her window, she saw that the vines had grown. She tramped to the barn, got her garden tools, and went to work on the pumpkin vines. She cut and dug until not one was left growing. "There! Now there will be no pumpkins." She smiled and went back inside, but the next week, when she was weeding the garden, she noticed that the pumpkin vines had grown back. Rebecca Estelle marched inside and snapped the curtains shut. "The only thing to do is ignore them. "They won't grow if I don't take care of them," she muttered. "So rain or shine, all spring and summer." She never looked out the front window. She used only the back door and never even glanced toward the vines. Neither did Esmeralda. Think that's going to work? I don't know. Rebecca Estelle ignored the vines so well that, in time, she forgot why she wasn't using the front door. Until one autumn day, when she and Esmeralda went to rake the leaves that fell from the black walnut tree in front of the house. Oh boy. Wow. Pumpkins! Rebecca Estelle shrieked. Pumpkin vines had twined under the bushes and over the bird bath and through the porch rails and onto the rocking chair. The entire yard was a sea of plump, round pumpkins. Rebecca Estelle could no longer ignore them. She plopped down on the pumpkin nearest her, putting her hands over her face. "What will I do, Esmeralda?" she cried. "How will I get rid of this many pumpkins?" She thought, and she thought. Her mind went back to all those pumpkins she had eaten as a young girl, when pumpkins were the only food her family had. "Well, we can't let 'em stay here," she told Esmeralda. "Some people might need these pumpkins, and I suppose there are folks crazy enough to like them. We'll give them away." She marched off to get her wheelbarrow. Rebecca Estelle struggled to lift the first pumpkin, and then the second, and then the third. She huffed and she puffed as she wheeled the loaded wheelbarrow into the lane. "Oh, I'm too tired to deliver these heavy pumpkins now," Rebecca Estelle grumbled. She mopped her brow with her apron and wondered what to do next. "Perhaps if I make them into pies, they will be easier to deliver. Such a nuisance." So she went to work. She scooped the slimy seeds out of the pumpkins and cut away the shells, and after she boiled the pumpkin meat, she mixed it with eggs, milk, sugar, flour, cinnamon, nutmeg, and cloves to make rich pies. Then Rebecca Estelle made pumpkin tarts and pumpkin muffins and pumpkin cakes, pumpkin bread, pumpkin pudding, pumpkin cookies, until pumpkin dishes were spilled out of every cupboard, drawer, and cubbyhole, and the seeds were a mountain in the corner. "Well, that's the first batch," Rebecca Estelle said, dusting her floury hands. "Now, to deliver them." So she put the wheelbarrow outside the kitchen door, then loaded it with pumpkin treats. When it was full, just the thought of delivering all those pumpkin dishes made Rebecca tired. "If only the people would come and get them," she said. And then she had an idea. Rebecca Estelle whirled around and hurried back into the house for a kitchen knife. "This should get the people to come," Rebecca Estelle cried. Wonder what she's going to do to get those people to come. She took her knife and she sat in the middle of the pumpkin patch. She carved a smiling face on a nice round pumpkin, a scary snaggletooth face on a tall thin pumpkin, and the word "boo" on a short squat pumpkin. And she was so busy carving pumpkins, she hardly noticed how dark it was getting. And when she could no longer see, she went to the shelf on the back porch and got a sack of candles that she kept for emergencies. "If this doesn't get people to come here, we'll have to deliver them all ourselves," she muttered to Esmeralda. "Well, I don't know. If she's going to put a candle in all those jack-o'-lanterns, it's going to make so much light in her yard, it'll probably make the people very curious. Oh, yes, it'll make the people so curious, they'll come to see what all that light's coming from." Rebecca Estelle peered into the darkness for a long time. She didn't see anything. Still, she watched until finally she saw a light. Faint at first, and then brighter, and then more lights bobbing through the night. "Here they come!" she shouted. "Esmeralda, let's heat up some apple cider." Oh, wow, they did come. Young and old, everyone in town came. "Rebecca Estelle, we thought you hated pumpkins," they said. "We saw your jack-o'-lanterns from the end of the road and came for a closer look." "Well, I'm glad you did. I was hoping you would," said Rebecca Estelle. "Where did you ever find all those pumpkins?" the people asked her. I came by them quite by accident," Rebecca Estelle said, smiling. "Would you like to have some pumpkin pie? There's plenty." She winked at Esmeralda. Everyone enjoyed the pumpkin pie and the cider and had a good time. So did Rebecca Estelle. And when they were ready to go home, she made sure each carried a jack-o'-lantern, a bag of seeds for roasting, and a pumpkin treat. Rebecca Estelle gave away everything that reminded her of the pumpkins that she had always hated, until all that remained was a handful of seeds. And those she tucked snugly into her pocket, where they would be